So let me just talk about Iran briefly because I was there and I have videos coming out. I have women that are going to talk about what do they think about when the West says that they are oppressed. I have some quotes, I have an article, I have all these things coming out, but I do want to talk about what I saw and what I tweeted while I was there because I think it's important that you guys get to see some of this because when I went to Iran, first of all, I knew that I wasn't going to see exactly what the United States told me that I would see, right? A bunch of oppressed women, a bunch of women with no rights. I knew it wasn't going to be exactly that. Um, but I also didn't think it would be what I actually saw. I was even surprised myself because the propaganda is so strong. You have a lot of, especially young people in the U.S. with the Masa Amini thing. Just to remind everybody, Masa Amini was this young woman who allegedly died in police custody because she was beat up. Initially, that's what it was told by police. And she died protesting. And this is because this morality police are everywhere and they are hitting women and who don't wear the hijab. Okay. So first of all, let me clarify a couple things. In Iran, which is the Islamic Republic of Iran, which got there because of what Pasa mentioned earlier, this whole set of events that happened with the Mujahideen and all this stuff. Um, and well, Iran is a Islamic country. Okay. A country that adheres to Islam as a religion. So, in that sense, you are supposed to wear a covering. It's not a hijab. You don't have to wear a hijab. You can wear a headscarf. A headscarf is different than a hijab. It's just what you wear, um, any sort of scarf that just covers your head. Um, a hijab is longer and goes all the way down. Now, women usually wear loose fitting clothing that doesn't accentuate their bodies. Now, this is all part of the Islamic religion. And in Iran, I came to and I flew into Tehran and I thought, oh my gosh, this is such a beautiful city. I didn't get to see too much of it because I was there for the Khorshid Media Festival. And this festival it's the first year of this festival and it's created mainly to highlight women in media, which I thought was great because I've said before, I don't believe women in media are really like highlighted as often. And it's not that only women should be highlighted or whatever. I just mean like it doesn't really happen very often. And so it was great to go to this festival, and it was only a festival for women. But there were a few male attendees, among them Saeed Mohammed Marandi, who's done I've interviewed several times on RT, and a few others. And so the festival took place in Mashhad, which is about an hour airplane ride or a 10-hour drive from Tehran. So I spent a little bit of time in Tehran and then I went to Mashhad. Now, these are some photos from Tehran when I first got there. And if you can just show the photos there for a second, these are some monuments that are in the center of the city. Uh, and this is just more of the architecture, because one of the things about Iran that's really cool is the architecture and the history that they have with, they're Persian. They have this history, and this is what greeted us when we arrived at the airports in Khorshid. This is in Mashhad for the Khorshid festival. So when we arrived there, they greeted us, kids that were singing, and yeah, so that was pretty cool. And it's just such a beautiful country. The mosques are gorgeous, and yeah, so that's what I saw when I got there. Now, um, the major thing that I witnessed was everything about the fact that women have no rights, that women don't have a say. From what I saw was entirely false, and there's just more architecture there, more colors. There's a lot of color in Iran. It's completely false because the women had so much say. The women there, in my opinion, seem to run the show. So it's kind of weird to me
Like
because
everywhere
I didn't
else.
I didn't expect it to be that blatant. I expected to see more of a patriarchal society, if I'm being honest. Like a society where the men run things, but the women have so much more say. It's just different. Gender roles are very important. So like the women, Iran has statistics for having the most educated women. Iran has women that have not only bachelor's degrees but masters. You can study for free in Iran. A foreigner could come in and study in Iran. By the way, all you have to do is learn Farsi. So um, there's that. But you could come in and get like a master's degree in Iran and study. So the women are highly educated. Now, in the same way that Russia is more conservative, that's how Iran is. The women have more of a traditional role where they are considered the pillars of society. They're social. They focus on education and on pretty much making sure society is functioning well. On the family, they're focused on the family, but that doesn't mean they sit at home. And this is something Ibrahim Raisi talked about, that women don't just sit at home and do nothing, or and that they just cook and that's it. They actually go out and do different things, but they're not, equality doesn't mean that they're going to go and do the same things men exactly do. So they look at things like women have a difference than men, but those differences are used in a certain way to just enhance the entirety of society better. So that's their belief, right? That women have a role and men have a role. These roles are different, but hey, like they're both appreciated. In a way, the men seem to treat women very well, like very delicately. There was a lot of like, picking up our bags, taking care of everything we were doing, making sure we were okay. A lot of chivalry that you don't really see in the US at all. And that you do see in Russia, but not as much. I mean, this is like when I said I haven't seen women treated this way, is because I haven't. The women pretty much have a lot of say when it comes to the day-to-day affairs. If they were upset, you could definitely tell. Now, Iran has a majority of Shia Islam. So the majority of the people in Iran are Shia Islam. They're not Sunni. So it's basically the majority of them, do the whole classic where they 5 times a day, but they sometimes combine it. Now, what I did notice was that the youth was definitely a lot less, was more lax and less religious. The one thing I want to say on record, I went to several cafes and restaurants. There were women there without the hijab on, without any headscarf on. They weren't wearing it. They literally, and nobody gave a crap. Nobody said anything to them. Nobody did anything. Like they were just there. They weren't wearing it. That's it. And nobody was getting hit. Nobody was, and I have a video where I'm in a restaurant and there's like these women without this headscarf. And I'm thinking like, okay. And when I first arrived at the airport, there was a woman there without anything on in front of the police. And she was just there waiting for her cab. Nobody said anything to her. So I was a little bit like, okay, so I'm expecting like the morality police. I'm expecting some sort of somebody to say, hey, wear this. I was following the rules. I was wearing it because I'm a guest in the country. And my whole thing is, if I'm a guest somewhere and they said, hey, this is, the usual dress code, I'm going to wear it. I'm going to wear it. But there were times when they say, oh, could you wear this or that? But only if you're okay with it. Like it was never like, you must do this or else. Like this whole idea, I was just trying to be respectful, as you should be if you're a guest in any country. And so those are the things that really struck out to me that I do want to mention, because those are the things that were used, right? Why am I talking so much about a freaking hijab? Because that's literally what the United States and all of our media have been talking about for the past year or two, about why we need to go save women in Iran and free them from the oppressive, regime of Iran. And so this is obviously always used for pushing regime change. It's used for saying we need to go help these women. Can I ask you, how did we help the women in Afghanistan? Right? They always use the women in Afghanistan. Let's talk about the women in Afghanistan that we helped from literally occupying Afghanistan for 20 plus years and then leaving it with radicals in charge, like actual radicals in charge. I mean, it's kind of crazy, but this is what's used. So the women there have taken it upon themselves to try to fight this propaganda war, because they say they are in a propaganda war. They talk about being censored all the time. They talk about being taken off YouTube Press TV. I went to Press TV Studios, and they told me they've had to remake their YouTube channel like at least 4 times, start from scratch, because they keep getting taken down. And that at one point they had 1 million followers and they got taken down. So, they face a lot of the same censorship that, the Russians do. And this is why there's that relationship that's, a decent relationship. So that's just some of the highlights that I definitely saw. I have some tweets, but fam, I'll let you comment.
No, continue. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think I have a couple tweets here, right? So I have one tweet, if you can put up the first one. So this is the Khorshid Festival. This is a photo of various people talking. One of them is the Press TV presenter, Marze, and she's the one that she's a presenter, and she also has her own show. So I was on her show recently. And one of the things I said, I want to read because I think it's important that everyone hears it. So I said, this tweet went viral, by the way, in Iran. It got shared in Iran, and a lot of people were very supportive, and some people were angry at me, the pro regime change Iran people. Weirdly enough, they sound a lot like the Nicaraguan regime change people and the Venezuelan and Cuban regime change people. They all sound the same, huh?
Were you on that stage?
Not on that one. I was on a different one. I haven't even shared everything that happened. So I said, so far for the people of Iran have been so kind to me and all the guests of the country. The last thing I've seen are oppressed women. And this is true. I didn't see women who were oppressed. I saw a different culture. So I'm not religious. You can disagree with people's beliefs, and obviously I do because I'm not religious, but what you never do is act as if you have the authority to tell other sovereign countries how to run their affairs, as the West does. It's condescending and imperialist to the core. The women of Iran are some of the most outspoken, insightful, intelligent, and happy women I've had the pleasure of meeting. And in both cities I've been to, I've seen no one come under abuse for not wearing exact attire. This is what I was describing. If the women of Iran were treated unfairly, believe me, these women would absolutely speak out. They're extremely outspoken and opinionated. The Khorshid International Media Festival is dedicated to women in media. For so long, too many of my female colleagues have been excluded from the dialogue, and Iran recognizes this, not in the Western liberal sense of superficial feminism, but in the actual sense of empowering women's voices beyond sexuality, appearance, and more focus on economics, knowledge, leadership, and growth, as they consider the women pillars of society, different than men, but such differences are valued as strengths. Focusing on the hijab is the excuse used by the West to portray themselves as saviors of women, when we know war, sanctions, and their interventionist policies hurt more women than anything. And so when we talk about war, that's exactly what happens. And if they truly wanted to help women, they might want to start at home. Women in Iran have high education statistics, and that's undeniable. This is something also I saw in Nicaragua, and I mentioned this as well, which has also been called a brutal dictatorship. And again, I haven't attended a festival like this in the US, and our voices have been drowned out. And I said, importantly, I witnessed various varied cultures and languages understand the importance of mutually beneficial relationships in spite of differences. The actual microcosm of the multipolar world was present in Iran during this festival. And I did see that because it was a bunch of women from different countries. I believe, the only American. Many voices from many nations in West Asia, Southeast Asia, and the global South came together to relay their experiences and share knowledge. Today, I gave a speech regarding sanctions, my experience in Iran, women in media, and the history of regime change operations orchestrated by the U.S. Various countries I've had the opportunity to visit have been vilified as brutal regimes, including Cuba, Venezuela, Nicaragua, Iran, and Russia. This, of course, is false. Iran is not only experiencing a military threat from the West, Israel's brutal attacks and crippling sanctions, but it's also undergoing a propaganda war. This hybrid war has affected the country immensely, but it's also made its people determined and strong. Women in Iran are playing a major role in countering this propaganda. So overall, don't listen to those who say you shouldn't go to Iran or X country because it's dangerous and a dictatorship. This is simply false, as it's been false in every country that the West says we must intervene in or hate for the sake of democracy. And as I said to people about Russia, go to Iran and see for yourself. I go to the places I report on for a reason. There's nothing like it. And Pasa, you know this because when you went to
Yeah.
Nicaragua, you saw that that wasn't the case. What you were told
Yeah.
about Nicaragua, what you were told about X country. So I find this to be the case with every country I've been to. They had a special ceremony at the end. This is a closing ceremony where they did special performances. And they talked about, obviously, Shireen Abu Akleh, who was the Palestinian journalist that was killed by Israeli gunfire. And they talked about her. And at the end, they gave several women awards. And I was one of those women. So I received an award for journalism. And I'll share it later, but it looks like a genie lamp. It looks like an Aladdin lamp. So it's pretty cool. But yeah, so again, go to Iran. I didn't even get to do all the tourist things that I wanted to do, but it's such a beautiful country. There's so much to see. And there is Raisi with a bunch of us in this photo, a bunch of the women. A few women got to, only 3 got to say something because they ran out of time. But yeah, he was there, and it was really cool to hear him say some of the things he really talked about were, that women are in Iran are really important in terms of combating this propaganda war. He also mentioned that women are instrumental in society for the people of Iran. And then he mentioned something about the United States and how the United States has a very hypocritical stance when it comes to women and that they use women. So he said specifically, Westerners use the issue of women's rights as a tool to exert pressure on independent countries. Iran does not use women as instruments. Women in Iran play a key role in all sectors of society. They do not sit at home. The West talks about human rights, but they've occupied Palestine and oppressed its people for more than 70 years, while U.S. troops have been in Afghanistan for 2 decades. Iran is facing a media hegemony. Today is the area for the war of narratives. Western media are actually against free thinking. So these things were really cool to hear a president say, because it reminded me of when Vladimir Putin talks about, the West, along those similar things. About the hypocrisy of the West and how they paint things and they weaponize things. So these are things you won't hear any U.S. politician say in the United States. Of course, you're not going to hear that. But I thought it was interesting hearing their perspective on that, and how we've talked about them so many times. So Fan, I don't know if you have any questions. I have one interview that I wanted to play.
Go ahead, play the interview.
Okay, so this is an interview that we did at Press TV Studios. I got to tour the whole thing. It was really cool. And it was me, a woman from Algeria, a woman from Turkey, and a woman from Kenya. And we all pretty much shared our perspective on coming to Iran and what we thought before versus what we thought after. So you guys should check it out. It's on Press TV. And here's the snippet where they cut the part where I said something. So, and make
prior
it
to
bigger.
coming to Iran, I was told not to come by multiple people who meant well in the United States, thinking, Iran is dangerous, reading the mainstream media narrative that it is oppressive, a dictatorship, and that women have no rights. This is exactly what I was told. But because of going to countries that, I'm told not to go to, like Nicaragua, Cuba, Venezuela, and then Russia, I have found that in those countries that have been under the hegemony of the United States, this whole situation where they're painted as dictatorships has been false every single time. And so coming to Iran, I had an idea that would be so, but I didn't know that it would be to the extremity of where I have seen women here be in leadership positions and be appreciated in a way that I haven't seen in other parts of the world in general. Women are treated in a delicate form, and it's not like women need to be saved. It's more of like they are given the freedom to use their intellect and their opinions, and the focus on the hijab has been just so formulated to push and sow dissent and cause regime change. This is something I've seen in the various countries I've mentioned as well. As my colleague here mentioned, women are utilized for a certain narrative, and we are not given the ability. It's condescending that we don't have a mind of our own. And I've found here that the women of Iran, if they had a problem with the way they were being treated, these women would certainly speak out.
That's very good. Even after a couple of days, you picked that up already, that definitely Iranian women will not tolerate being mistreated.
Yeah, so I mean, that was the overall gist that I got, that Iranian women don't take shit, you know? Um, I mean, that's just what I saw. And I do think a lot of the propaganda about Iran is just focused on the hijab. I'm not saying that, you know, I would go tomorrow and move there and wear a hijab and all of that, but I'm not Muslim. But my whole point in showing that is, if I were Muslim and if I had those beliefs, why are you taking my own thoughts and my beliefs from me and saying that I'm oppressed? Oppression can come in different ways. We can say that women in the United States are oppressed because they don't have the economic spending, the economic means to do what they want to do. We can say that that's a form of oppression. We can't say what we want to say. We can't, you know, live the way we want to live. I think that's oppression. When you talk about, you know, the family structure of Iran, it's clearly a more family-oriented society. There's no drinking. It's illegal. Alcohol is illegal. So you sort of, that was interesting, not having this. Moscow is a very alcohol like culture. It's like the United States, but the United States is worse. But it's very much like people are out, they're drinking in Moscow. Going to Iran, it was very interesting. I thought everybody was going to go to bed early, but no, they like to stay out late. They like to party, but they party without drinking. So it is the most interesting thing I've ever seen in my life, where people are dancing, they're having a great time, but they're drinking non-alcoholic beers, they're drinking juices, they're drinking tea. So it was kind of cool. And I really enjoyed that part, and of just like being around people and everybody's like not drinking and everybody's sober, but everybody's having a great time. And it was just very interesting. And I think everybody should see it for themselves. Iran has, it's been trying to revitalize its tourist economy because of all the sanctions that it's been undergoing. But there's so much beauty there to see. It's definitely a lot warmer than Moscow. It's only a 4-hour plane ride from me. So it's very, very accessible. And they have direct flights from Moscow to Tehran. And that's going to continue formulating. The car situation in Iran hasn't been good. So they've been working with China and Russia to try to get more cars there, because they have kind of the same problem that Cuba has, where they have a lot of old cars, and they have a metro. I didn't get to use the metro, but they have a metro in multiple cities. They have far more infrastructure than I expected. I expected a lot less infrastructure. They have more infrastructure than a lot of countries in Latin America, which I didn't necessarily expect. So yeah, it's hard to say without, you know, showing everything. But like I said, I'm gonna release some more videos, and y'all see that all the stuff that's been happening. So yeah.
Do you have the address to your new page yet, fam?
No, I don't have the address, but it's gonna be Fiorella Isabel. So when I'll put it on Twitter, and you guys have to subscribe as soon as possible, so I can live stream there as soon as possible. So that way, once I'm able to live stream and I have enough subscribers, then we'll be able to multi-stream some things, and vice versa. Because once I can multi-stream there, hopefully I won't get knocked off and be able to get monetization too. So yeah.
I'm waiting for monetization approval today. I said it's a 24-hour period from when I sent them my driver's license, but because of Lahaina on Fire, in which we had a shit ton of viewers, 38,000, close to 39,000.
Nice.
So that's pretty cool. And that will, if we never know with them, fam, if they'll let me monetize that channel, that would be pretty cool. Super chats would be nice again, and being able to get back on the algorithm, all that stuff. We'll see, but you never know with YouTube. From what I understand, they send a disclaimer on trying to get a into the chat, and that's what Shanda Master said in the beginning of the show. So they're doing weird stuff like that. You know, we have the Canadian laws. They're making people like register as a political channel to the government now on Rumble, and they're trying to even talk about getting rid of Rumble. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on when it comes to our speech. It's one of the biggest issues on the table, you know. But circling back around the wagons to what Fiorella was just talking about over here, at the end of the day, the fact that they don't serve alcohol, the fact that they are a theocratic country, we are partially to blame with that. When I say we, I mean the American empire, right? So that's why I don't think that, you know, what Cornel West said the other day about Iran, what he said about the Chinese and the Uyghurs, we have no right to do that. If we're the ones who caused the problems, our only move is to shut up and get out of the way, right? And I'll say that to any candidate. It's not about, oh, let's help this person or that person. No, just get out. Leave. Let these countries do what they want to do. Stop, you know.
Let them handle it.
Sanctioning them. Yeah, exactly.
No, impossible. That's what I'm saying. Like, if the people of Iran actually wanted, if the women especially felt oppressed, if you met these women, you would say, oh yeah, they would let you know for sure, like that they want something changed. And a lot, you know, and so I don't. It was later found that Masa Amini was died due to a medical condition that had nothing to do with being held in police custody. But the narrative out there still is that she died because of this morality police. And so when I share my thoughts on this, and like I said, I have another video, and I have that video of women not wearing anything, in my own experience as well, and the experience of the people I was with. I was with the Russians. I came with the people from Russia. So everybody kept referring us as the Russians. And I'm like, I'm not Russian. I'm an American. I'm like the only American here. So it was funny. But they all saw like women not, you know, covered up, and you know, it was what it was. I mean, you know, the youth, just like in Russia, the youth is definitely a lot more liberal. The government is going to have to listen to the youth, I think, in order to preserve its continuity. And that's in Russia as much as it is in anywhere else. And you've seen this in Cuba. You've seen this in you know, in Venezuela. I've seen it in Venezuela, and even Nicaragua. The youth is so important to have, but that's what's used again, time and time again. So yeah, I mean, if you get a chance, guys, go to Iran, get a visa. You can get a visa online. It's a process. You have to be approved, but you know, I think it's worth going at the very least to see the culture, at the very least to kind of humble yourself and try something new. You know, go to a place where there's no drinking, where you know, if you're a woman, you have to cover up and whatever. I mean, if you want to follow the rules, but I think it's different. It's refreshing hearing their point of view, why they believe what they believe, hearing women talk to me about why they believe they want to cover up, you know, why they believe these things. It's really gives you a different perspective. It really does. And I'm not saying I'm going to go convert and become Muslim, but I am saying I respect their thought process. It makes sense in a lot of ways as to why they think the way they do. And I simply respect it. And when I visit the country, that's it. And I think we should allow these people to decide for themselves instead of trying to paint a picture of, you know, that this person's oppressive, that Putin is Hitler, according to Western media. You know, he's Hitler. So, I mean, are you really going to buy everything they're saying about Syria, about Iran? Syria is next, by the way. Syria is next. That's where I want to head to next. Since I'm in this part of the world. So, yeah. And then North Korea, maybe. Okay, I'll wait a little for that one.
Well, for me next is Argentina. Have you been to Argentina yet?
No. When are you going?
Good. I can go to a place that you haven't been because you went to Venezuela without me. So I'm going to go to Argentina. I was to Cuba before you. I'm going to go to Argentina before you. So.
But Fidel and I have been talking way longer. So even if you went to Cuba before.
But I'm
when are you
going to Argentina? Huh?
When are you going to Argentina? When's the
election?
When are you arriving? I know, but when are you arriving?
2.5 weeks. Not even 12 days. The 17th.
Oh, okay. And you're going with Gloria?
24th? Yeah.
Rude. Okay.